I had a period of time after my divorce where I was really ambitious when it came to women. But then it felt like a job. Like it felt like a job after a while where I was like, God, this is like enough. It's kind of enough. Like it's like when you've eaten so much that you just go like, ugh. I got that way with pussy. Like it really was like I just had enough. Like it was fine. I was like, this is great, but
well, when you're in your 20s or 30s, maybe your libido is strong. No, it makes you insane.
Yeah. I was not. I definitely was.
As we age, we mellow.
Yeah, which I think is great. Although I have to tell you, one of the most depressing divorces I ever did was a guy who was, I think, 92.
Oh, geez.
And what made it depressing is that he had left his wife of, I don't know, 50-something, 60-something years for a younger woman, a woman in her 50s. And I just remember what was sad about it to me was this guy is still being led around by his dick. Like I thought, oh my God, like I'm going to be chained to an idiot forever. Like I'm going to forever be led around by my dick. And I remember thinking like, no, I really thought that at like 90 something, I would just, like a beautiful woman would walk by and I go, oh, there's a human being. Like there would be no...
You can appreciate it without...
Yeah, there would just be no sense of like, yeah, that would be gone from me. And this guy's proof that 90 something years old and you're still thinking with your dick. Like
we're doomed.
That terrified me. It really did. It actually upset me because I thought at some point I'd get to experience what it's like to just be free.
You live in New York where there's a financial industry, there's all kinds of industries here.
Oh yeah.
But to me, sometimes I wonder if female attractiveness isn't the highest valued commodity in our
100% it is. 100%.
It is.
Yeah, of course.
Because men are becoming rich and powerful in order to get a woman.
Of course.
The woman they want.
Of course. What an attractive woman. And when I say attractive, I don't just mean attractive, I mean even just sexually confident. I mean, what an unbelievably lucrative career that is. Like I do divorces for people that, a woman walks out with $200-300 million. He was an analyst at Goldman Sachs who built a hedge fund and then sold it and then used his trading algorithm to build it up to $500 million. She was hot and slept with him for a while and then stopped and started sleeping with other people and playing tennis and having Botox, and she's going to get half. Like, that's fucking incredible. Like, do you know what he had to do to get that? And what she had to, I'll fuck that guy for $200 million. Are you kidding me? Like, that's insane. That's incredible. Like, and God bless. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the rules of the game, but you can't argue that that's not easier than going to Harvard.
No, for sure. But then the payoff, the trade-off for that is that when they hit a certain age, the value decreases.
Play it right. Any stock, if you hold it too long, it's going to go down. So play the stock the right way. I mean, and that's what I think. If we were a little more honest about the nature of male-female coupling, I mean, right now we can't even establish what is gender. We can't establish any of that anymore. So divorce is becoming incredibly hilarious and fraught.
Well, to me, what is, like, sometimes you have to stand back and look at things to get the real perspective on what it is.
Sure.
And sometimes you look back at marriage. So when was it invented? Like 2000 BC, roughly. And the life expectancy of humans back then was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And marriage was created for
land ownership
and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you're going to die in your early 20s or whatever, then getting married at 16, 18 makes sense.
Well, I think there's a distinction that has to be made between pair bonds and marriage, right? Marriage is a government concept. Marriage is a contract. Marriage is a legal status. Pair bonds, right? Two people go in it together, saying, hey, there's 7.3 billion people in the world, and the two of us, we're gonna lock up together and we're gonna try to hold hands and get through this thing.
Until we're 80 years old.
Well, until whatever, I mean, what's interesting is, first of all marriages end. They end in death or divorce, but they all end. Like every marriage ends. So it's one of the only things that you go, wow, I really hope this ends in us dying. Most things, that's not the desired outcome. But in marriage, you hope marriage will end in death. You hope that you will be together until one or both of you die. But all marriages end.
But
so
as a guy, as a provider, if you knew it was going to end and you were going to have to give away half your money, you might think twice about doing it.
Well, I think that's what makes being a divorce lawyer interesting, is that it's a lot of what a court has to do is disregard what happened in the marriage. Because A, the truth is at the bottom of a bottomless pit. Like, you're never going to get there. Yeah, well, he's fucking his secretary. Right, because you were not sleeping with me anymore. I have a client whose wife acknowledges she didn't sleep with him for 6 years. What did you think was going on if you didn't sleep with him for 6 years? So delegate. You've delegated that responsibility. If you don't want to have sex with him, that's okay. No one should force you to have sex with this person. Let him go have sex with someone else. You don't want to do the laundry, hire someone to do the laundry. If you don't want to mow your own lawn, hire someone to mow the lawn. Delegate that responsibility. And this guy wasn't even sleeping around. He was going to those hand job places, where you get a massage and you get the most pathetic thing in the world, the most innocuous thing in the world. He didn't have a girlfriend. There was no love involved. He was getting jacked off for $50. Like, that's sad. Like, I mean, first of all, hand jobs, like, that's an outdated technology. That's like a Betamax. Like, who even does that anymore? But he was doing this, and he just thought, okay, that's fine. She had the indignation to say, he shouldn't be a custodial parent. He's a terrible person because he's doing this. And it was like, wait, how is that much different than going to a strip club? How is that much more different? Because we just, he was like, well, should I deny it? And I was like, is it true? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, no, we should own it. Let's go in and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. My wife didn't sleep with me for 6 years, and I'm human, and I wanted to have sex still. I didn't want to blow up my life. I didn't want to screw up my kids and have my kids have divorced parents. So I thought, all right, she's clearly not interested in me anymore. I'm not going to have a girlfriend and get caught up in all the things where people could get hurt and there's feelings and fatal attraction and stuff. I'm just going to go. It'll be transactional, like going to a strip club or anything else. And is it a little pathetic that I'm a guy who makes $1 million a year in finance and I'm paying someone $50 to jack me off? Yeah, that's kind of pathetic. But you know what? I figured out. But to suggest that means I'm a bad parent, that has nothing to do with my parenting at all, period. So, and thankfully the judge agreed with me on that one. But I really do think that the idea, I don't think, if you break it down fundamentally, 56% of marriages end in divorce. Like, think about, that's the ones that end in divorce. So how many people, what percentage stay together for the kids? Or because they don't want to give away half their shit? Another 10%? That's conservative.
Conservative.
But let's say 20% then, okay?
That's at least right.
You now have a technology that fails 76% of the time. That's insane. That's insane. That's more likely than not. 76%. If I told you there's a 76% chance when you walk out the door today you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball, you would not go out, or you'd wear a helmet for sure. But people just continue to get married. Not only do they continue to get married, there's a presumption that you should get married. And if you don't get married, there's something wrong with you. So if you've got a girlfriend and you've been with her for 5 years, and you say to someone, we're getting married, they go, oh, that's great. They don't go, why? You're happy. Why would you get married? Like, everything's going fine. Why would you put yourself through that? Why would you run that risk? If you say to someone, we've been together 5 years, and we've decided we're not going to get married. We're going to move in together, but we're not going to get married. Ooh, what's wrong? You have intimacy issues? What's your problem? Meanwhile, 56% end in divorce. It's literally fits the legal definition of negligence. It's a negligent behavior. The way you define negligence in law school is when what you lose by not doing something, okay, is lower than the risk of harm. It's what's called a BPL analysis. So the burden of not doing a thing is lower than the likelihood, the probability of harm. So BPL, so burden, probability, and loss. Marriage is an inherently negligent activity. It's like owning a lion. Like, the likelihood of someone getting hurt seriously by this is very, very high. No one ever says it to you. Because why? Because, I would say something, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I still get misty-eyed at weddings. Like, there's something in me that goes like, maybe it'll work out for these two.
You still believe in love?
Sweet. I absolutely believe in love. I think love is wonderful. But love and marriage have very little to do with each other. I don't think there's much of a correlation there. I think that's where we got off track. Like, I believe in pair bonds. I don't think I can learn everything I need to know about myself from myself. I think having someone around me who sees my blind spots, and that doesn't have to be a romantic partner. That could be a friend, that could be any number of things. But there is something wonderful about romantic connection. We know that. I mean, the other statistic is 56% of marriages end in divorce, but 84% of people who get divorced are remarried within 5 years of their divorce.
Really?
So think about that. So now you've done it and failed and felt the pain of the loss, and within 5 years, 84% are remarried.
So when you fall in love, and you're with a partner who's in love with you,
Sure.
it's like hard to put the brakes on and say, you know what, that's as far as I'm going to go.
Well, I think whoever discovered water, it wasn't a fish. And I think when we're in a thing, we don't see it. And so, I mean, and this is true of any of us.
There must be some endorphins, something's being released in our brains.
Listen, you want to test that theory. The next time you're out with a couple who've been together for a while, and it like seems like they maybe got in a fight, or they're just like kind of being, impatient with each other at the table, when you go like a group thing. Just say to them, so tell me about how you met. Tell me the story of how you met. And everything on them changes. Like they go back to that place. And there's this like, oh yeah, and she was this. Because for that second, you go back to that place. Like you can go, someone with a horrible divorce, if you could get them to go to that place and talk to you about that time. Like I would tell you something, when I was a kid, like every kid, you have the fantasy of like, if you were invisible, what would you do? You go to the girls' locker room, whatever. I have this fantasy that if I could be invisible, I have about 8 clients that I'd like to sneak into their house and find their wedding album. Like I know it's in the attic somewhere or something, because I would love to see what it looked like when these people loved each other, because they are weaponized against each other now, and we are trying to kill each other, and we're taking every secret, every intimacy, everything, and we're
at their ugliest.
At their ugliest, at their worst. And there's something in me that just the thought that like, you guys at some point you were like, there's 7.3 billion people in the world and you're the one. Like you're the one I just want to be with and smell and touch and like that feeling. We all know that feeling of like just the electricity of another person, and I mean, I think I'm a romantic at heart in the sense that I really get it. Like I really get why we do this. I felt it, I know it, I understand it. But tying that to the technology of marriage to me makes almost no sense whatsoever. And I actually think it's almost antagonistic to that connection with another person, because there's so much expectation that comes with marriage culturally. We've created so much stuff around it. Like when you marry someone, they're supposed to be, at least in the modern Western model, your best friend, best roommate, best co-parent, best travel partner, best roommate, best everything, best activity partner. Like how would one person be all of those things? That's insane. Like if I was interviewing for a job and said, I want you to be the best typist, and I also want you to be best on the phone, and I also want you to be great at that. And I ran down a list of dissimilar things. Like, or if I went to an amazing chef and I said, I know you're a great chef, but can you farm? Like, well, that has to do with food, but they're not the same thing. Like, what are you talking? So I think, why do we put on people this idea, like whoever came up with the word soulmate, really we should be paying, like divorce lawyers should be paying that person dividends. Because we've convinced people that if this person isn't meeting every one of your needs, checking all of these boxes, they're not your soulmate. Your soulmate would know exactly what to do, exactly what to say at exactly the right time. I can go off on this stuff.
Yeah. What do you think the secret is to keeping a marriage vital, keeping it alive?
I think people get unhappy in marriages the way that people go bankrupt, which is very slowly and then all at once. I think it's very slow and then it just goes off a cliff. So everybody will say, well, we divorced because he was cheating or she was cheating, or we divorced because he had an alcohol issue or a drug issue, which lately we're seeing more like alcohol and drugs is a big thing, especially post-pandemic. There's a tremendous amount of substance abuse stuff that's causing a lot of issues in marriages. And certainly like social media has increased the accessibility of adultery and connections to other people and reconnections with people from your past who remind you of a version of yourself that you felt more excited about because you were younger. So it's, it used to be if you like ran into the girl you banged in high school, it was like once every 10 years at a reunion, or if you lived in the same town as you grew up in, you might run into the person at the Walmart. But now it's like on Facebook, you have all these excuses to be able to chit chat with someone and all these benign entry points, of like, oh, I saw your pictures from vacation. Where did you stay in Miami? And then it becomes, oh yeah, well, you looked great. I mean, boy, you look fantastic in a bikini. And all of a sudden we're off to the races and we're chatting with each other. So if we were going to invent like an infidelity machine, you couldn't do better than Facebook and Instagram. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. But I genuinely think that the secret to staying happy in a marriage is probably the same secret to maintaining a healthy weight. Don't wait till you get super fat and then try to lose the weight. Don't wait until you get really sick. Like my sister's a dentist. And she always says, if you have a toothache, there's nothing I can do really. Like I can pull the tooth, I can give you a root canal, but like I can prevent you from getting a toothache. If you just come see me regularly and you just floss and you just brush your teeth, you'll never get a toothache. By the time your tooth hurts, something is already seriously wrong. By the time you're in a divorce lawyer's office, you're fucked. The whole thing's fucked at that point. Like you'd be better off just, figuring out the preventative maintenance, right? Like change the oil in your car. If you reverse engineer divorce, like most people, the marriage killer, the cheating or the gambling or the whatever, that's the symptom. Like the problem is these little disconnections, One of the best stories I have is I had a client who I did her divorce, and we'd spend a lot of time together because you do. When you're a divorce lawyer, you spend a lot of time with people and you get to know them very well. I mean, people will lie to their therapist. They won't lie to their divorce lawyer because A, there's no reason to, and B, I need to know everything and it's all attorney-client privilege. And this woman, we were sitting outside the courtroom waiting on a break in testimony. And she was a young woman in her probably like late 30s, very attractive. And we were just chit-chatting and I said to her, was there a moment when you realized the marriage is over? Was there a moment? And she said, yeah. And I said, when was it? And she said, there was this granola that I like. She said, they only sold it at like this particular grocery store. And I like to put it in my yogurt. And she said, he used to always, whenever I'd be running low on it, I would just open the thing one day and a new bag would be there. She's like, and she's like, it made me feel so loved. Like I didn't have to ask. He didn't want credit for it. Like he didn't go like, oh, did you see? I got your granola that you wanted, like he just would do this thing, And she said it was just something that it always made me smile. She said every time the granola was running low and there was a new bag of granola, I just felt very loved, And she said one day the granola ran out. And I thought, oh, that's weird. Maybe he didn't see it. She's like, so I left the bag in there because I thought, well, at some point he'll notice. And he didn't notice. She goes, so I took the bag out and I waited and he didn't get a new bag. And I thought, okay, this thing's going down. And I thought to myself, wow, that's like, that's such a small thing, like granola. Like you just, but these are the things, like these are the little things that make us feel loved and that are gestures of love. And when I said to her, was there anything like that for you with him? And she said, yeah, blowjobs. And I almost spit out my coffee. And she goes, no. She goes, when we were first dating and even first married, she's like, I used to give him blowjobs a lot. She's like, do it in the morning, took 2 minutes. And he was like super happy the rest of the day, She's like, the rest of the day, he would like call me or text me and be like, oh, that was so good this morning. I had such pep in my step now. And she's like, it was just like, what did it really take out of my life to do that? And it made him feel good. She's like, and then I got to a point where I was like, well, you know what? No, I'll wait. And then tonight we can have sex and we'll both enjoy that. Like, I owe him a blowjob? Like, no, like I don't owe him that, And then she said, I got to a point where it was like, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't do that as often, hardly ever really,
Which came first?
I said that to her, and she said, she said, I couldn't tell you. She said, but I think it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
And I do think it's the same thing. Yeah. And I'm not saying blowjobs and granola is all you need to know, but, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying that a blowjob is a small thing. I don't think I have any right to. I've never given one. But it seems like a phenomenal feat, and I'm grateful for every one I've ever received. But I don't think it's a massive investment. Right? Just like buying someone's granola is not a mess.
But when you love somebody, you love doing things for them.
Right. Their pleasure
you love
pleases
making
you.
their life better.
Their joy pleases you. Like their happiness makes you happy.
Exactly.
And somewhere along the line, and it happens a lot in marriage, it becomes, well, I'm not happy. Why should you be happy? And then that creates a spiral. And I really believe that that spiral could go in the other direction. Like if he did the granola, I think the blowjobs would have come, and if the blowjobs were there, I bet he'd have bought the granola. Like I can't prove that. There's no control group, I can't run that research, but it feels to me like those little things, like leaving a note, I've said to some of my friends, when they say to me, like, as a divorce lawyer, you see all this misery, like, how do I stay out of your office? And I'll often say, I'm like, it's dumb little things, man. I'm like, just leave her a note. I'm like, leave her a note in the morning. Just leave a little note, says, hey, beautiful. So it was so fun watching that movie with you last night. So glad we got to have a date. I'll be thinking of you today. Love you. Like, what does that take? That takes like a minute, not even. Like, and look what it can do. Like, look at how that makes this person feel. And even if right away it doesn't work, on that moment it doesn't work. Okay, do it enough times. Like, and then you're either gonna figure out that this person's gone, and then just fucking bail. You're done. Like, because if you try for long enough and you give like that, but if you're not giving like that, and then you're not getting back either, well, I'm not surprised. That's how you end up in my office, is this death spiral of everyone like, well, I'm not buying the granola. She's not giving me blowjobs. Well, I'm not giving him blowjobs. He's mean to me. Okay, well, everybody's just has an equal right to be fucking miserable then.
I think if you're happy with yourself, like truly happy with who you are at that point in your life or whatever the situation is, I think it's easier for you to be happy with your partner.
Yeah, but I would argue that if you're not happy with yourself, having someone happy with you is certainly not going to hurt your feeling of who you are, right? Like I don't need someone to tell me I'm handsome for me to have a nice day, but I can't think of anybody telling me I was handsome that it ruined my day. Most of the time you're like, oh, that's nice. I got that going for me. So yeah, I think self-love, of course, is the most important love, and to be secure in who you are and to not allow your self-definition to be easily swayed or pulled. Like if you believe the good reviews, you got to believe the bad ones too. I get that. But I just don't think kindness, like it's just such an easy, like especially if it's easy. Like if it's easy stuff, like just telling someone that they're beautiful or handsome or that you're cheering for. It just, to me with marriage or pair bonds, I shouldn't even say marriage. Like the world is trying to kill you all the time, like people are criticizing you all the time. You feel like a failure a lot of the time. If you compare yourself to other people, you'll constantly be, comparison's the thief of joy. So why not have like one person who's just cheering for you, like constructive criticism is criticism. It's still just criticism. So if your spouse is just sitting around criticizing you and telling you all the things you could do to improve yourself, instead of just being a fan and just saying, you know what, I know who you are and you're beautiful. I know who you are and your heart is good. And betting on the best parts of a person, I think that there's very little downside to that. I think it would put guys like me out of business if people really leveraged that the right way.
I asked you earlier if you believe in love, which you said you do. Do you believe in marriage?
I mean, I believe people believe in marriage.
No, but do you?
Yeah. Do I believe in marriage? I don't. I don't think it's a useful technology. I understand culturally why people do it, but I don't think people should need it. I know I certainly don't need marriage. I don't think marriage... I was married. I was married before I really ever thought about what does that mean. I married my college sweetheart. I got married because that's what you do. You get married, But but I hadn't thought about it as a technology and why it's there. I didn't understand it the way I do now. You know, there's a line from a Joseph Brodsky poem that he wrote when his wife died, where he says, "I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear." And I feel that way as a divorce lawyer. Like, I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear. I wish I didn't know what the end of so many marriages looks like, because I think I would have a more optimistic and unrealistic view of it. I would.
Yeah, but you'd be divorced and giving away half your.
I'd be foolish. Yeah, I'd be as foolish. But I don't know that it's always good to know, right? Sometimes there's tremendous joy to be had, and like falling feels like flying for a little while, you know. Till you hit the ground, It feels really good.
But as I said earlier, you know, now that the life expectancy of man is around the 80s or something, then it's like, so you're going to do this from your 20s or 30s until you're 80?
Well, marriage is a technology that was designed for when women died in childbirth and when men died in their 40s if they were lucky, you know, 50s if they were super lucky. Like, if you were in your 50s, your 60s, you were an elder. You know, that was pretty amazing. And most women died in childbirth. Like, childbirth is traumatic. It's a traumatic thing. And before modern medicine and before we understood antibiotics. So marriage is I don't think anyone ever planned that it was going to be, okay, we're going to do this forever. You know, we're going to do this till we're till we're 100. I mean, but I think that's part of a bigger problem. You know, I don't remember who said it, but I remember someone saying, I can't remember who it was, but we are prehistoric creatures, right? Like, we are biological creatures living in medieval institutions like education, work, with godlike technology. How do you think that ends? Like, you think that ends in happily ever after? Like, that's insane. Like, marriage was not designed. I mean, think about even the early days of marriage. Think about every Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. You know, think about Oklahoma, you know, where you'd have there's the 3 people in town that aren't married, you know, and you sort of pick which of the 3, you know, you were going to go be with. And now you have access to just an endless supply of the opposite sex, or I shouldn't even say the opposite sex. You have an endless supply of romantic partners in a device in your hand. How does that possibly stand up? How does marriage, the idea of monogamy, forced monogamy or enforced monogamy, how does that ever survive in that environment? I don't think it can. I don't think it's realistic. The statistics prove me right. You know, the statistics are absolutely in my favor. Now, again, get married as many times as you want if you have a prenup. If you have a prenup, go get married. Getting married is a blast. Being married is difficult. You know, someone once said that it's great to be married sometimes. The problem is you're married all the time.
So you're a fan of prenups?
I'm a huge fan of prenups. I mean, I shouldn't be, because a prenup for a couple of $1,000s will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in legal fees, if not millions. So there are clients I have that have spent over $1 million just in their legal fees, that if they had spent $2,000 on a prenup, none of that. They'd still have that money in their pocket. And that's incredible to me. Like, I have 2 sons who are adults that they are absolutely going to have prenups. Like, they have to have prenups. They'd be fools to not have prenups. It's like jumping out of a plane with no parachute. Why would you do that? You know, it's stupid. Prenups are enforceable. They make sense. I actually think there's something very romantic about prenups, because they're forcing you to have a conversation about this relationship. Like, I genuinely believe that we are the most aware of our health just after we got sick, right? Like, if you wake up and you have a toothache, all you can think about is the fact your tooth hurts. And then your toothache goes away. And for like a week,
you're taking care of your teeth.
You go, oh my God, at least I don't have a toothache, you know? But then a month goes by and you don't wake up and go, well, at least I don't have a toothache. You know, it's the furthest thing from your mind. But theoretically, you could wake up today and go, I don't have a toothache. I don't have a backache. I don't have a head cold. Like, this is a great day.
What does a typical prenup look like?
The easiest prenup in the world. Easiest. Yours, mine, ours. That's it. Yours, mine, ours. If in your name, it's yours. If it's in my name, it's mine.
Like in a divorce, everything, all the assets are split 50-50.
Well, no, what you say in a prenuptial agreement is, if it's an asset or a liability, if it's in my name, it's mine. If it's in your name, it's yours. If it's in our joint names, we'll divide it 50-50. That's it. Yours, mine, ours. And then you have to have ongoing conversations throughout the marriage about, hey, I got this bonus at work. Do I put it in my account? Do I put it in the joint account?
But if the husband owns a house that's worth, whatever, $2 million, and he marries a woman, the house is his still?
Well, they have to have a conversation. Do I owe you a house?
That's an awkward conversation.
Okay. You know what's a more awkward conversation? A conversation 10 years later with a lawyer about the fact that you have to give half of this house away to someone. Isn't it better to have that conversation when you still, why would you learn how to fight in a fight?
But won't that undermine the love that each person feels?
Why? You're going to die. Does that undermine your life? Or does it make you conscious of the fact that this is finite? And that you should be out there. I think having a conversation with your partner about, look, I love you. You love me. We want to do this thing together. But the numbers are against us and the world is antagonistic to it. And I hope we'll be together forever. But if we split up, what do we owe each other? What do you expect from me? Because I have to tell you something. I'm a fair person. If you say to me, Jim, if I'm not going to work as hard because you make a good living. So if we split up, I'm going to need help for a couple of years because I'm not going to pay attention to my career. Okay? Is that unreasonable? That's totally reasonable. If I say, hey, listen, I have this house and I bought it, but I'm buying it with money that I made really before we were together. So if we split up, I don't really think you deserve half of it. I think that if we bought things for it together, that, okay, those things you can half of, but the house itself, that's money I had before I met you, and why can't you have that conversation? Why not? You buy a house. You do a HUD-1, a lead paint disclosure. You got to sign all these things that this is how much the interest is going to be, and this is what you get married. You don't get a fucking pamphlet. You don't get anything. You just did the most legally significant thing you're ever going to do, other than die, and no one has explained any of it to you. People come into my office and they go, "Well, my retirement account, that's in my name," and I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's in your name. Okay, was it acquired during the marriage? Okay, she's got half of it. Well, I have this bank account, but it's in my sole name. It's money that I inherited from my mom." I'm like, "Okay, and it's in your name." "Yeah, but you inherited that money during the marriage." "Yeah, and did you put money that you earned during the marriage in that account also?" "Yeah, okay, that's commingled and transmuted. That's now marital property." So they don't know that. Why? Because no one tells them that when they're getting married. You spend more time talking about the cake than you do talking about the fact that you just opted out of the title system. That's gigantic. You can't legally change the beneficiary of your life insurance, even to your children if you're married, without your spouse signing a consent to that. No one tells you that when you can get married. Elvis can marry you for $20 at a drive-through cathedral. And it's a legal status, a massive legal. You buy your spouse a Rolex, you bought yourself one half of a Rolex. You buy someone a birthday present who you're married to, you bought yourself one half of that birthday present. Nobody knows. People don't know that. They learn that for the first time in my office or in a courtroom. That's insane. What other thing in the world, like anything else, any other contract, you would say, well, wait a minute, no one explained that to me. No one explained that to me. When I leased this car, no one explained to me that there's wear and tear. It doesn't say it anywhere in the contract, right? Okay. Marriage contract doesn't say that. It doesn't say, oh, and by the way, you're opting out of the title system and your retirement assets and all these other things. And if there's any debts, and you could have enhanced earning capacity or celebrity goodwill that has to be valued by forensic accountants that'll cost you $100,000. No contract that says that. It just says, yep, we're getting married. It's 2 witnesses. We're good. Like, what other contract in the United States or anywhere has that lack of disclosure and is that binding? None. Zero. None. So why a prenup? Yes, that's an awkward conversation, I guess. I don't know that it has to be. And I have to tell you, the more awkward of a conversation it is, the more you should think twice about getting married. Because if you can't have a conversation with this person about the possibility that someday one or both of you might hurt each other, like, how many people, while they're still happy and in love, say something like, babe, I love you, but we're going to disagree about something at some point. And when we do, how do you like to fight? Like, do you need a minute? Like, do you need like to be alone for a minute so you can kind of calm down? Or are you the like, hey, we got to figure this out and we can't go to bed angry? Like, because let's talk about that now while we're not in a fight. Like, let's talk about it now while we still get along and we're happy and we're trying to figure out how to navigate each other. It's hard enough to navigate yourself. I want to navigate another human being. Why don't we have that conversation now? But no, we don't. We learn on the job. We learn how to fight in a fight, which is insane. But again, why? Well, because it's awkward. It'd be awkward to have that conversation. More awkward than getting in a fight where you don't know the rules of engagement, where you don't know how your partner does better or would feel better. And you're not going to ask them that in the heat of battle, So why wouldn't you have that awkward conversation while you have this abundance of affection for each other? I mean, when I negotiate prenups, it's the easiest thing in the world in a sense because these two people really like each other. They're about to get married. So they're clearly not trying to kill each other. At that point, they clearly like each other. So you just say, hey, listen, go home, talk to your fiance about X, Y, and Z and see what they think and tell them what your concern is. And very often people will come back and say to me, I have to tell you, I've been doing this now, over 20 years. I do a lot of prenups. I do maybe 5-6 prenups a month. Sometimes during like pre-wedding season, which is the fall and before the summer, I'll do 10, 15 a month. The people who say to me, oh, well, I don't want to have that conversation. They get the prenup and within 3-4 years, they're divorced. Sometimes 5 years, sometimes 7 years, but they're the ones who get divorced. They have no business getting married. Like the ones who have the discussion and figure out well, I'm worried because if you keep the place, yeah, you're right. Okay, so what if I give you this amount of money and it's this much for each year? Okay, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it that way. Those people, they'll probably never put the prenup in a safe someplace. You'll never look at it probably.
Good communication solves the problem.
Yeah, because they're able to talk to each other and they're able to talk about hard things. How are you going to be married to someone, have children with someone, and you can't talk about hard things? Like how? How are you going to navigate life and not be able to talk about hard things? Like that's silly. So if you can't talk about hard things, don't get fucking married. It's okay. You don't have to. You can stay together. But people I had a client, no joke, guy was in his 70s. He was married 4 times. I did his 3rd and 4th divorces, and he was getting married for a 5th time. And I said to him, I was like, because I actually thought he's older. So I thought, like, does he know you don't have to marry them anymore? Like, maybe he doesn't know.
He's dividing his assets.
Yeah, maybe someone didn't tell him. Like, maybe someone didn't tell him, like, you can fuck them. You don't have to marry them anymore. You can just do that.
He's dividing his asset multiple times.
Well, and it's getting smaller and smaller every time. But I said to him, I was like, why are you doing this again? I was like, you don't have to get married. Like, you're clearly not great at it, Like, and he was very funny. He said, Jim, he said, you buy a car and you drive it for 200,000 miles and eventually the engine craps out. So you go out and you buy a Ferrari or you buy some flashy sports car and you drive it for a couple months and you realize this is not the car for me. So you get rid of it. And then you get another car and you think this one's going to be the one for you, but after you drive it for like a year, you realize, yeah, this is not the car for me.
You can lease them instead of buying them.
You're going to walk everywhere for the rest of your life? Yeah, well, that was my answer. You could lease them. Or you could have some other alternate arrangement. I mean, here's the thing about marriage is it's a technology. So we made it up. So we can change it.
You think marriage will change in the next 20 years? No. I actually think it's going to have, I think I think the pendulum always swings hard in the other direction. We have a tendency as a culture to overcorrect. So I think we're heading into a spiral of like traditional stuff. Really?
Like I think you're going to see like people getting like super religious again, and people are going to get super dogmatic. I think we're going to see the trad wife thing. We're going to see the hyper masculinity. We're going to see like a very, we've gone so far in the direction of postmodernism where nothing means anything and everything's just, like there is no we become like Sartre, like we've become so postmodern that it's become almost a form of rugged individualism. I think we're going to swing in the other direction now, and traditional institutions are going to get popular again. It will be. From a marriage place, it's going to be great because I think people are going to get married. People were slowing down on getting married for a while.
Sure.
And they were getting married later. And they were having kids later. We're declining to have kids. And I think as we
I think as a culture, we start re-solidifying into gender roles or gender tropes, depending on how we're going to look at it. I think you're going to see marriage resurge again, but I think that it's still going to be as flawed of a technology as it ever was. And I think we have so much out there now to compare ourselves to. You know, you used to compare yourself to the neighbors next door and what car they had in the driveway and what they were wearing when they left for church on Sunday. Now you're just looking at everyone's greatest hits while living your gag reel, you know, and you're never looking at any of that stuff when you're having like a peak experience. You know, you're on the toilet or you're bored and you're looking at everyone's hashtag blessed. And meanwhile, they're in my office. Like, I can't tell you how many people do a consult with me and they're cheating and they haven't slept with their spouse in 3 years and they're miserable. And you're looking at their Instagram and it's all like, best life ever, hashtag greatest hubby ever. And you're like, what is this? It's performance art. You know, it's an advertisement of how happy you are, but this is what people are comparing themselves to. They're looking at that and going, oh, my marriage isn't that good. Well, that marriage isn't that good. Trust me, that marriage isn't that good. That marriage is in my... Look at celebrities. You don't even need to look at the people you know. Look at celebrities. Before they do, it is with great sadness that we advise that we're going to be moving in separate directions and consciously uncoupling. And like that, right before that, it's like, oh no, we're happy, we're great, we're phenomenal. You know, we're constantly advertising how wonderful our relationships are while they're on fire, you know, and then wondering why everyone's, you know, miserable in their relationship because they're comparing it to something fake. It's like comparing your body to a photoshopped body. You know,
other than social media, do you think there's something else in our society that made marriage more difficult to stay together?
Now makes it more difficult?
And just like your parents stayed married?
Yeah, my parents stayed married until my mother passed away.
Same with me.
But they were mixed results. I think that my parents were not as caught up in their own happiness. I think we're very caught up in our own happiness.
We're all very
Yeah, we're all very sort of, I don't want to say narcissistic, but we're very much like we are the sun around which everything revolves.
What am I not getting?
Yeah, my father was a Vietnam veteran, you know. He got out of the Naval Academy in '66 and went to Vietnam for 3 years. So he was alive. So he was like, fuck, I'm ahead. I'm playing with the house's money. I'm alive. Everybody in their wedding party had died. All the men in their wedding party died in Vietnam. There's 5 guys in their wedding party and they all died in Vietnam. My parents never looked at their wedding album because every single man in it was dead. They were all helicopter pilots in Vietnam who got killed in their 20s, you know. So they didn't really see marriage as like it was a partnership. It was like, yeah, we're going to do this thing. We're going to have kids. We're going to raise the kids. We're going to, you know, we're going to have a house. You know, we're going to have a car. Like, we'll be successful. The lights are on. My father was dirt poor. He came from like Appalachian part of Virginia, a small town called Shawsville. Didn't have indoor plumbing until he left for the Naval Academy. And he just, I think he saw marriage as, yeah, it's what you do. You know, he met my mom on Fleet Week. She was a nurse in the city. And he was, you know, on Fleet Week and he had his uniform on and he was in a bar and he was drunk. And he went to her and he said, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen and I'm going to marry you. Because he was drunk. And she said, are you in the military? Because he was wearing a uniform. And he said, yep. And she said, what country? And he said, whatever country you're from. And he invited her to visit him at the Naval Academy a couple of weeks later. And she came. But he'd invited 3 other women. He just didn't know if any of them would come. So he'd invited all of them. So my mom got there and she saw these other women and she said, either I'm leaving or they're all leaving. And he was like, I kind of like her. So he made them all leave. And they were married 50 plus years. But, you know, their marriage had challenges. You know, he was an alcoholic. He's been in recovery for maybe 7, 8 years since she passed. But, and he's remarried. But he remarried within a year of my mom dying. Like, he was the kind of, he's of a generation of men that he needed someone to take care of him. You know, my mom died. He didn't even know how to scramble an egg. Like, it was, you know, like after she passed, I had him come to stay with me and my sons. And I was trying to like teach him like, okay, Dad, here's how you make like a batch of chili and then you can eat it all week, you know? And I was like, how's this guy gonna, because they had this very, you know, but that's what he met another older woman and Her husband had died. She needed someone to take care of. He needed someone to take care of him.
But that generation didn't have it as easy as we did.
That's what I'm saying. Like they
were
just
grateful.
meeting your basic needs, right?
They were grateful to be alive.
They were grateful to be alive because they'd either been through war.
We're not grateful unless we're driving a Mercedes or a...
And even then we're not grateful because the truth is well, okay, a Mercedes, but what's a Mercedes? Who cares? You know how many people have a Mercedes? My secretary has a Mercedes. She leases it. You know, I drive a Jeep. So is she better than me? Is she more successful than me? She works for me. You know, so I don't know that any of it's enough anymore. Like no matter what watch you have, somebody's got another one or a better one or 5 of them.
And all this comparison that we see.
It's all. And so I just think that's the thing that makes it impossible, right? Like if our parents' generation was struggling to just make it through, right? To meet your basic needs, to keep a roof over your head, to raise your children. And now where it's very much, are you self-actualized? Are you happy? Do you have 8-pack? Like it would never have occurred to my father, did he have an 8-pack? It would never have been something he thought of, you know, it's just not. It just wasn't on his radar, you know, and I don't think my mother would have ever been like, oh, you know, he doesn't have an 8-pack. Like that wouldn't, because again, though, it's not constantly being advertised to him. You know, I think that how many women did he interact with in a day? You know, how many women do I interact with in a day, visually or personally in some fashion, or you know, in a curated, mediated way? And again, those are curated women, by the way. So they're photoshopped, they're airbrushed, they've got filters on them. So again, you know, how does marriage survive in that setting? It had a hard enough time surviving without all of that. I mean, forget kids.
The divorce rate keeps increasing, right?
Yeah, it keeps going up. It keeps going up. It's been hanging around 53 to 56% for a while. We had a bump after COVID.
What are other countries like?
Countries that have a significant religious narrative have the lowest divorce rates. So the lowest divorce rates are in like, you know, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but they don't have a whole lot of choice.
Right, you're not allowed to divorce. You just have your wife killed, you know. So that's, you don't have to divorce. So the countries where there is this very strict religious prohibition against marriage, or against divorce.
But I mean, the United States is probably the highest divorce rate?
We're among the highest, yeah. I don't think we're the high, we might be the highest now. For a while, Germany had a very high divorce rate. France had a pretty high divorce rate. What's interesting is the divorce rate and the marriage satisfaction rates. Those are different. Because most people, the goal is not, can we stay married? The goal is, can we stay happily married? You know? Because if somebody said to me like, yeah, I've been married 25 years and I've been fucking miserable for 15 of them. Like, I'm not going to envy you. Like, great job. You really hung in there in that awful situation. You know, like that's not impressive to me. You know, I have a cousin who got married and I was chatting with her. She's a younger woman, and her husband just joined the police force, and I said to him, so I was trying to make small talk, and I said, so do you like it? And he's from a family of cops, and he said, nah, not really, but you know, I'm going to do like the 20 years, and then you know, you get your pension. I thought, I'll just do my 20. That's 20 years. You're 25 years old. That's 25 to 45. Those are fucking incredible years. You'll never get those back. And your approach to life is, yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but I'll just kind of do it, you know? Like, I want to tiptoe through life and arrive safely at death. Like, that seems, you know, but I get that that's what if that's what marriage is, if it's an endurance event, you know, where, no, you've got to stay married. You know, why? I mean, that's why I think religions have been very quick to, I mean, I always tell people I'm not religious. I was raised very Catholic. But the reality is that you know, I mean, if in fact God talked to humanity with 10 commandments, I think it's hilarious that the only thing he has to say twice is don't fuck people you're not married to. Thou shalt not kill, once. Right? Honor the Sabbath, once. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't commit adultery. It's the only thing. It's the only thing that got 2 commandments. So like basically it was don't kill, honor the Sabbath, don't fuck people you're not married to. Seriously, don't fuck people you're not married to. Like there's no, it didn't, thou shalt not steal one. You know, it's the only one that got double billing.
Well, religion's a big component.
It's a huge component. But why? Because how else are you going to control people? How else are you going to get people to sign on for this thing and not sleep with each other? I mean, I'm not saying Freud was right, but we do want to sleep with people. We do want to kill people that don't do what we want them to do. Like we have these animal instincts. We have these impulses. And what do we do with them? Well, we have to live in a civilized society. So civilization, it's discontents. We have to suppress certain things.
If marriage was outlawed or just abolished, would it just be a free-for-all?
I don't know that that's true. I mean, I think people would like us to believe that's true. You know, I don't believe that. Like, I don't believe that if
Probably a lot heavier.
if murder wasn't illegal, that I would just go killing people. Like I rape and murder as many people as I want to, which is none, because I'm not a monster. Like I rape as many people as I want to, none, because I don't want to. I wouldn't want to do that to another person.
I think society would be probably happier without marriage.
Well, I think we would have a lot less of the damage that comes, right? I think we'd have to find new narratives to structure, to define relationships, right? I mean, I do think there is a part of us that wants to say, because, you know, I as a grown man who's divorced, when you're 20 and you say, oh, that's my girlfriend, nobody thinks anything of it. When you're 50 and you say, oh, that's my girlfriend, people go, oh, there's a story there. Like, because you're either divorced or commitment phobic, or why do you have a girlfriend when you're 50? Why isn't that your wife? So they know there's a story there. So we'd have to, and I get it, because if someone says, oh, that's my boyfriend, it's like, all right, well, that could be for a week. That could have been nothing. That could be like, yeah, it's my boyfriend. My husband, it's like, oh, okay, wait, that's her husband. Like, she's got some authority there. So I get that there's this idea that we want to say, like, you know, it's like when you're a little kid. This is my friend, but this is my best friend. You know, this is my best friend. But like, how many adults still need to say that? Like, how many adults still need to say, oh, my friend Todd and I, and my best friend Tom and I, like, okay, like, so the extra special friend, like, what do they, do they get health insurance with that? Like, what is the deal with that? So I think that's kind of what marriage has become, is it's like, you know, well, the person I love, no, but like the person I love. Like, there's a lot of people I love. I wouldn't want to be married to any of them, but there's a lot of people I love, you know, and I love my ex-wife. I wouldn't want to be married to her. I think she loves me. She wouldn't want to be married to me. I don't blame her. I'm a great ex-husband. I'm a terrible husband. I'm a great ex-husband. Because the skill set for an ex-husband is totally different than the skill set for a husband. Skill set for a father is completely different than that of a husband. That's the thing I have to tell people all the time. All the time. People say, well, he's a terrible husband, so he shouldn't have custody of the kids. I'm like, what the fuck? Where's the overlap between being a good husband and being a good father? Like, being a good father is a whole different skill. You could be a great husband and a shit father, and you could be an amazing father and a terrible husband. Like, there's very little overlap in those skill sets. You know, maybe good listening skills would be helpful in both, or patience would be good in both, but that's true of almost anything. You know, it's a doctor and a lawyer. Both be good if you had good listening skills. It doesn't mean they're the same profession. So,
is divorce harder on women or men?
That's a great question. I think it's equally hard on both. But I think that the world is more sympathetic to women when they get divorced. I think when a woman gets cheated on, the man's a piece of shit. And when a woman cheats on a man, she must have been forced into the arms of this other man, or she had to explore herself, or she was being neglected in some fashion. And so if a man cheats, he's a piece of garbage. And if a man's wife cheats, he mustn't have been meeting her needs. And she had every right in the world. Like, so the world is very unsympathetic
to men, right?
To men when they get divorced.
But that's been throughout ours.
Yeah, that's been for, I mean, there was a maternal presumption, a legal presumption, what was called the tender years doctrine, which was that if a child was under the age of 7, they were automatically presumed that they would be in the custody of the mother. And men get really beat up still in court. I mean, the law theoretically is gender blind right now, but I I don't actually see that, because the law is people, the law is judges, and judges are human, and they have all the same biases, and it's just not a moment right now where men are particularly sympathetic characters. I think that, even young men. I mean, if at a school dance they sing Beyonce's "Girls Who Runs the World," like if there was a song called "Men Who Runs the World," men, and it was a positive thing, like you get pilloried for that. So I think that men have a very hard time right now in divorce. They see their children less, they get hit harder financially, they are the bad guy no matter what. If they cheat, they're the bad guy. If they get cheated on, they were the bad guy because they probably neglected her. There's a presumption that the man is to blame a lot of the time. Now, again, marriage equality has been a thing for a while. So there are tons of gay couples. So you have 2 men, 2 women divorcing each other. And that hasn't really shook out too much yet in terms of how that plays out. I don't know if it's that gay and lesbian couples are better at it than heterosexual couples, or if it's still they're in the honeymoon period, because marriage equality hasn't been around that long. But I think men find a less sympathetic world. But in fairness, divorced men have it a little easier, I think. Divorced men meet a young woman, and the woman's like, instant family, just add me. That's great. If he's got kids, it's like, oh, he's got kids. Look at how nurturing he is and how lovely. And women, they get divorced, they've got kids. Guys are like, whoop, it's got baggage. I'm not going near that. So I think that men and women have different problems post-divorce, and the world could be better to both of them. I think that I have some women who I've done their divorce, and whatever guy is with them is going to be very lucky, because they're beautiful, they're smart, they're good moms, but they're also vibrant, exciting women.
And now they're loaded.
And they've got money now. Yeah, they've got money. They don't have as much financial insecurity. Although I have to tell you that, it's the last remaining feminist taboo. I got a lot of women paying alimony these days. I mean, women marry the handsome musician who's not successful, or the artist, there's a lot, listen, it hasn't been, there's been a significant effort in our culture in the last decade, if anyone didn't notice, to improve the situation of women. If you have an equally qualified man and an equally qualified woman, the woman's the diversity hire, the man's not. So I have a lot of women who when they get told oh yeah, no, you got to give him half your shit, or oh no, you got to pay alimony because he makes 50 grand a year and you make 250. And they're like, they could be the staunchest feminist in the world, and when you tell them they got to pay alimony, they're like, whoa, 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 he's a man. He's got a strong back. He can get out there and work. And then suddenly the whole gender is a construct and there's no such thing, that goes right out the window when you got told you got to pay alimony. That's like, nope, no. I believe in strict gender roles. Men should pay alimony. Women, even if you earn 10 times, you should not have to pay alimony. I've had very, very staunchly feminist clients who changed their mind about how feminist they were when they got told that they were going to have to pay alimony.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I do have a lot of men who won't take alimony even though they're entitled to it, because there's just some feeling of yeah, no, I'm not doing that. It's emasculating. If she tells people that we know that I took alimony from her, people will think I'm less than a man. So again, it's all gender stuff. It's still out there. It's still part of the zeitgeist. We're still trying to figure it all out.
How many marriages are genuinely happy, you think? How many married couples?
Gosh.
Because I see married couples that have been married, it looks like they've been married a decade or two. Yeah. And they're having dinner and they're having the same conversation they had yesterday or the day before, or the day before that, and the weeks and months before that. And it just
here's what I'll tell you. I know a lot of people, and I think I know one couple that has a genuinely happy marriage.
What do you think the secret is?
They really like each other. I don't know. They're really good to each other. I have to tell you, they make me very uncomfortable. I jokingly, my ex-wife and I jokingly say that they were the reason we got divorced, because we've known them since we were in college, and we went to Disney with them, with their kids and our kids when all the kids were little. and we were going to go on a ride with our kids and their kids, and they were going to like, you know, we'll take the kids on the ride and you guys can go. And my friend was like, oh good, we're just going to go walk and hold hands. And they walked away and like holding hands, and we looked at them and we didn't say anything to each other. But like 5 years later when we got divorced, I said, you know, when I saw the two of them together, I thought, I don't feel like that about her. Like, and she said, oh my God, I remember that exact moment. I felt the same way. So I think they make people uncomfortable. Like when you see someone who's got it right, like this guy just loves her. He loves her. They've been married 25 years and dude, it's like he's talking about a girl he met yesterday. And she's the same way about him. Like
it's a miracle when that happens.
Yeah, I just think look, you know, man, I tell people marriage is like the lottery. You are probably not going to win. You know, but if you win, what you win is so good. Like, I don't know, maybe buy a ticket, fuck it. Like, but buy it to get a prenup. Like, do you take all your money and buy lottery tickets? No, but and I don't buy lottery tickets. Like, I don't play the lottery. You're not gonna fucking win. Why? You know, set the money on fire. It'll be more fun. But if somebody said to me, no, man, you know what? Once a week, I buy $20 worth of lottery tickets. All right, go for it. You know, somebody's got to win. Maybe it'll be you. Like same thing with marriage. Like maybe somebody's got to win. Like, yeah, I've met hundreds, if not thousands of couples. And I know one that is legitimately happy and like really seem to just feed that happiness by that marriage that they have. And they both as individuals have become the best version of themselves by being, you know what? Like if they won the lottery. So buy the ticket, I guess, you know, but I mean, don't make that your retirement plan. Like, don't go like, well, you know, don't worry, I'm not saving money for my kids' college because, you know, I'm buying lottery tickets. Like you're an idiot if you're doing that.
Excellent. Jim, thank you so much for sharing your story.
It's a pleasure.
Your thoughts on marriage and love and divorce. Fascinating topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I suspect it will continue to be. I don't know that we're going to culturally get any better at it, but the economy's good. We're busy. Economy's bad. We're busy. Like we're a recession-proof industry. So, you know, it's even COVID didn't slow us down, you know.
Probably sped you up.
Well, people said for better or for worse. They didn't say for lunch, you know. And when you're locked in the house together, that was not great for most marriages. Like there was no it was not, hey, we should all spend more time together. You know, there was a lot of difficult conversations that came out of that. Barbers and divorce lawyers, when the pandemic ended, the lines were out the door, you know. So whatever the next thing is, you know, we'll still be here.
All right. Thank you so much.
You got it, man.